what is up guys, Lee here. Today I'm bringing you guys a review for Netflix's live action adaptation of Avatar the Last Airbender. I just want to, get my thoughts before I give everything out in the open here. If you've seen my videos, reacting to the trailers and the first photo releases, go back to see how anticipated I was for this project. I really was. And I give my concerns about what could potentially happen with the series that I also give in those videos, what I was worried about. So this is not a biased review. This is not going to be a biased review. In other ways, people will say that it's biased because I'm thinking of comparing it to the original. It's kind of hard to not compare it to the original when this is taking characters, settings, stories, placing them, even just the smallest detail from the original. It places it in the somewhat the exact same way and just flips it. It flips it at like last minute change. There will be good executions on that, and then there will be things that will just completely fail. And it's okay to call out the things that fail, especially when they're crucial to the story and to beloved characters. Not everybody's hating just for the sake of hating people. It's called opinions. And especially an opinion that varies on a beloved franchise. So, I'm gonna be honest. I thought it was, honestly, as definitions go, I thought it was pretty mid. I'm legit split on this. Like, it's better than the movie. That's for certain. I mean, if it would have been worse than the movie, that would have taken incredible skill. But thankfully, this is better than the movie.
My name is Gaang, and I'm the Avatar.
But does that make up for its lack of vision? No, it does not. I felt this was very soulless in a way, especially with, reports of showrunners saying they want to appeal to Game of Thrones fans. I saw a post recently from Discussing Film with the new show called Shogun, which I highly recommend if you've not seen it, or even the original. Read the book as well. It's on Hulu if you're interested. Someone was saying, I can't remember the exact details, so bear with me here. They were saying it was like captivating as Game of Thrones. Here's the thing. Not every project has to be compared to Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones in the earlier seasons and the books is a masterpiece. It really is. But not everything has to have the standard of Game of Thrones. Like, there are other TV shows out there, Succession, Barry. They're not Game of Thrones, and yet they succeed in storytelling. So, like, again, not everything, and especially for a product like Avatar the Last Airbender, which appealed more to kids back then, but still had mature themes and tones. It did not need Game of Thrones aesthetics for this show. Now, there were things in this live-action adaptation that I thought I enjoyed. I really did like. But it didn't feel it was misplaced. It felt natural, and it felt more expand upon from the original series. From that, I'll just go into my pros. Actors for some of the parts nailed it down, especially with the actors for Zuko and Aang. I felt like chef kisses on there. Those two were fine. The others could need some improve upon on acting, but you know what? Hopefully they get more projects later down in the future. Setting wise, yeah, they were nailing most of the setting locations, but you know what? I'm not gonna say the but part right now. I'm just gonna put that in the cons, because I do have issues with how they shoot this. I really like that they added additional stuff and here's the thing, this one's pretty split. In the first episode of the show, the whole Fire Nation attacking the air nomads, right? Here's the thing. I'm looking at this as like a person who's not a fan of the show, who's never watched the show before. I thought, wow, that's pretty dark, and honestly, it's really well executed for like a normie consumer. That's about it. someone who enjoyed the show back then, I felt like, yeah, it was good, but was it really needed? Not really. Really, the whole intro of the original, which they kind of kept in there, could have just been used for that. And then another pro, like again, how I mentioned, I did love how they focus a lot more of the consequences of the war. You know, Earth Kingdom people being attacked constantly. There's casualties most of the day. It's not a simple black and white picture for some people who have to work in these conditions. Like, for example, in episode 4, Into the Darkness, Iroh gets taken by Earthbender soldiers to be thrown into the pit because of his war crimes during his siege of Ba Sing Se. In the original, that is it's not very talked about from his what he's done for his wrongdoings in the war, but he's trying to make up for it for, you know, trying to pay off the sins of his past. Whereas in this adaptation, I felt it felt really organic and natural to have Earth Kingdom soldiers berate Iroh for what he's done. Because although we know that he's changing, it still does not make up for the excuse of what he did in his time during the war. And I thought that was very well captured and executed in a way. Like there like an act. I don't know the actor's name in this scene, but he's talking to Iroh where like he got PTSD from his siege of Ba Sing Se in leading to killing his brother. And like there was a line in this like, every time I go to bed, I still smell smoke. That is a good line. That is great writing right there. And I liked how they kind of captured a lot of the war moments of like what the Fire Nation has done to people as a whole. That stuff is great. You can expand upon that. I love that they expanded upon Monk Gyatso and Aang's relationship. Because honestly, that was the highlight for me of the series, really, is their relationship. Especially getting into later episode, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it has a reminiscence of Iroh and Korra in her series implemented in this. And I love the expand upon with Zuko and Iroh's relationship. You couldn't have messed that up, so that's that's great right there. And especially with the 41st Division of Zuko's fleet, the crew that he's always been with in the OG series. In this, they changed it up a bit, and I actually liked it. It came out with a good, positive outcome. I think that's about most of the pros. Oh, sorry. The bending aspects, they're really great. They're really great for most of the parts. There's been iffy times, but not too bad. And like again, set locations, great. Wardrobe, amazing. But other than that, I mean, I'm going into the cons here now. This is where it's going to really hurt the show. So buckle up with me. So going back onto the acting. Like I said, Zuko and Aang were great. Most of the time, when it went to Sokka, Katara, and the rest, could have been better. I'm just saying. It wasn't complete dog shit. And I hope they get more projects in the future so they can work their craft even more. Because it's not an easy thing. Especially when you're on a project that is so well beloved by millions around the world. The relationship between the gang is not the best. Most of the time they are separated and you don't feel a connection between them for like whenever they do reunite. It doesn't feel genuine. I feel nothing when I see it. It's not wanting me to get attached to these characters. Especially when, you know, the most important aspect for the book 1 is for Aang and Katara to learn waterbending. They don't really focus on that. They just don't. It's not there. It's non-existent for like maybe barely an episode, and that's about it. CGI for the most part, like again, they're doing great with the bending and the set locations, but there were noticeably about a bunch of times where the CGI gets rough. And I mean like Spy Kids 4D rough. Like not OG Spy Kids, like current Spy Kids. I also thought, you know, taking pivotal stories and just changing it up for the sake of just subverting expectations is just not a great look. Like with Bumi, for example, we go to Bumi. In the original, he is a wise, goofy, cooped up old man who runs a kingdom of Omashu. And in this, he is a crazy, bitter old man who resents Aang for abandoning him and all the four nations. Like, again, you can change some aspects of the original show to improve upon. What they did with Bumi was not improve. What they did was just make him bitter. And it does not stick the landing, especially for his connection with Aang being his best friend, who's lived for 100 years. It did not felt earned at the very end of the episode where they just be all buddy at the end. It felt rushed. You don't stick with them compared to Sokka and Katara, who are for some reason are in the Cave of Two Lovers. That does not need to be a thing in this season. The Cave of Two Lovers happens in book 2 for Earth. It does not make sense to have the Cave of Two Lovers in Omashu. It just doesn't make sense. And from there, we just get more of between Katara and Sokka. And honestly, you know, the acting on that part could be... It's alright. It's not the worst thing I've witnessed. But still, you are more focused on them than you are compared to Bumi and Aang. And then it makes no sense for Aang and Bumi's companionship to reunite from there. Especially when we only got like one flashback. And that was at the very beginning of the episode with them. It's not a good episode. It's just not. Despite, you know, the Earthbenders taking Iroh. In episode 3, where there's been bombings in Omashu, you see the repercussions of what the bombings have done by the Fire Nation attacking Earth Kingdom citizens. That's a great way to showcase that. You don't need to like spell it out with Bumi, where in the scene when he's berating Aang, saying people are dying, the world is on fire, and you got to sleep through it all for 100 years. One, he doesn't know the context of why, and two, he's 12 years old. Realistically, no person who had the Avatar state would have mastered all 4 elements within that given time. Literally no one. All of them were grown-ass people. And they had time to prepare. It made no sense, especially since he was told that he was the Avatar the same day that the genocide happened against the air nomads. And not just that, in OG Bumi, he was giving these lessons to Aang on how to think outside the box when overcoming obstacles that are presented in front of you. Whereas this, they've only showcased like 1.5 trials, and really all those trials were just to spite Aang. There was no lesson to be learned there until the very end where he's fighting Aang. He's forcing Aang to, you have to make the hard decisions. You can't think outside the box. You have to choose. That is it. Nothing more, nothing less. It just diminishes Bumi as a character and just rips all that nuance out of him. Despite him being like a children's cartoon, he had more nuance back then than this. So the execution was poorly done. They butchered Bumi for most of that episode and just went back to him being the same old cookie-loving, wise dude. But that's just my opinion, folks. Did not like how they introduced Ozai, Azula, Ty Lee, and May already in book 1. Like, you can take, like, honestly, you can take those characters away and it would not change the story at all. It just wouldn't. They changed up a little bit of Zuko, like how he got the scar. I mean, they set it up exactly the same way, and they changed it up a bit, and it does not fall gracefully on that part. Like, for example, in the OG, Zuko would never want to fight back against his dad because out of fear. That's mostly the reason why. And he's been taught by his mother to just not always resort with violence. So he begs his father for forgiveness. And his father would not give 2 seconds of his pittiness, and just he would scar him right then and there, without a doubt. In this, Zuko fights back. It makes no sense because it felt more compelling in the original, where he did not want to fight him. He got the scar out of fear. And out of that fear, he wanted to get his father's respect and honor back. That is the main arc for Zuko. In this, he just basically got it because he lost a fight. It loses that impact. Don't get me wrong, they're not fucking Zuko up all the way, but it doesn't hit. And from that, with the Azula actress, she doesn't give too much of Azula energy. It kind of feels like they're going the route where they're trying to make her sympathetic, because, you know, fans back, like, during this time and back then were like, oh, you know, she's been brainwashed and everything. But the thing is, it's okay to write your characters as irredeemable as possible. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes a villain can be great because of that. Like, look at current villains back then and now. Everybody's trying to be like the next Thanos, you know? It just does not work. But that being said, with Azula, when her brother got the scar, she was relishing in that, in the OG. You know, she's like fucking demonic. Even when her grandfather was still alive, like he would smite the shit out of Ozai if he went out of bounds, and she would smile to that. In this, she's not giving like emotion at all, in my opinion. Here's the thing, it's not always the actors or actresses' fault. It's the direction they're given. Because honestly, like, again, they're young. They don't have any experience. So it's the direction they're given. Another con I just want to get into. Really just Appa. Here's the thing. Like, when we get to book 2 of the original series, Appa is a crucial part of the gang. Like, fucking family to one another. And this is where it falls flat with the gang in general. Is like, Appa feels just like a quick transportation. They don't give him the respect, the dues, and everything. It just give some detail moments with those characters. Let them just be friends, you know? Let them be a family. Everything just does not feel natural or proceeded with love and care with these characters. And that's just my opinion. Involving some things from book 2 just does not work. I forgot the owl's name, but yeah, they introduced the owl in book 1 for no reason at all. They did Heibai so dirty. I mean, there was an episode dedicated to him called Spirited Away, and throughout that entire episode, they never resolved anything with Heibai. They just didn't. It focused its shift for some reason on Ko the Face Stealer, which makes no sense to place him there yet when it made sense to put him in the finale. It's just, those things don't work. It doesn't work when you mix things up too much. And now we get into my biggest problem, which is the Northern Water Tribe. A lot of things that kind of fumbled the finale here. The whole reason Aang needed to go to the Northern Water Tribe was to learn waterbending, especially Katara, so they can both be masters at it. They don't do that. They don't get any lessons. Katara self teaches herself, and boom, she's a pro. And Aang just doesn't learn any waterbending throughout the whole show, including the finale. It's like the biggest waste of time to go there. Because like with Katara, she tries to learn from Master Paku, who, you know, is a sexist. He in the original series, he says women do not fight. They go to the healing huts. This, they like, again, they're playing some of the story beats in that beat for beat. They even have their fight beat for beat. When Paku beats Katara, he notices the necklace that was given by Gran, the woman that he loved, and then he reformed his ways of being a sexist, although it does not diminish what he did back then. But still, he learned and grew as a character later on and taught Katara how to waterbend. and she became a pearl after that. That doesn't happen. He doesn't see a necklace. He still won't teach her, and yet she learns it by herself anyways, and then tells Paku, look at all these women here. These are all women who want to fight. They don't want to do the healing huts. And then that somehow changes his mind a bit. I mean, that makes no sense. The guy was a sexist for most of his life. These are women that he's been living with for all these years. And you're just going to show him, like, seeing all these women that he's been sexist to for all those years suddenly change his mind because the girl that he still beats, by the way, in this show, that she lost, convinces him that they should fight. It makes no sense whatsoever there. The execution just falls flat. Again, it's all about execution. And I have to say, with their fight here, it kind of gets all janky a bit. And that's the thing. Like how I mentioned with the CGI, it gets iffy a bit. You'll notice. Yeah, man, there was a lot in here that I just... It's a real mixed bag here. But yeah, I pretty much gave all my pros and cons here. I got nothing else to say. If they do decide to make a season 2, I'm worried about my girl Toph, man. She is literally she's my favorite character, and she's the reason why I like earthbending so much. Like, they're gonna take everything lovable about Toph and just remove it from her. Like, again, this series just feels so soulless, lifeless, and just there's no reason for it to be made. There was just no reason for it to be made. I can see why the original creators left the project. Like, again, I give this about a 5.5 out of 10. It's just nothing to me. That was my review for Avatar the Last Airbender live action adaptation by Netflix. Again, these are my opinion. You don't have to agree with them. Just be respectful in the comments. With that being said, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment down below what your guys' thoughts about this show are. And if you're excited for book 2, if that gets ever made, or hopefully it doesn't. That being said, catch you guys next time. See ya.